Divines and Deities Lore, Part 1. An Overview of Gods and Worship in Tamriel by Brother Hetchfield, Associate Scribe at the Imperial University, Office of Introductory Studies. Gods are commonly judged upon the evidence of their interest in worldly matters. A central belief in the active participation of deities in mundane matters can be challenged by the reference to apparent apathy and indifference on the part of gods during times of plague or famine. From intervention in legendary quests to manifestations in common daily life, no pattern for the gods of Tamriel's activities is readily perceived. The concerns of the gods in many ways seem unrelated or at best unconcerned with the daily trials of the mortal realm. The exceptions do exist, however. Many historical records and legends point to the direct intervention of one or more gods in great times of need. Many heroic tales recount blessings of the divinity bestowed upon heroic figures who worked or quested for the good of the deity or the deity's temple. Some of the more powerful artifacts in the known world were originally bestowed upon their owners through such reward. It has also been reported that priests of high ranking in the temples may on occasion call upon their deity for blessings or help in times of need. The exact nature of such contact and the blessings bestowed is given to much speculation, as the temples hold such associations secret and holy. This direct contact gives weight to the belief that the gods are aware of the mortal realm. In many circumstances, however, these same gods will do nothing in the face of suffering and death, seeming to feel no need to intervene. Thus, it is possible to conclude that we as mortals may not be capable of understanding more than a small fraction of the reasoning and logic such beings use. One defining characteristic of all gods and goddesses is their interest in worship and deeds. Deeds in the form of holy quests are just one of the many things that brings the attention of a deity. Deeds in everyday life, by conforming to the state statutes and obligations of individual temples, are commonly supposed to please a deity. Performance of ceremony in a temple may also bring a deity's attention. Ceremonies vary accordingly to the individual deity. The results are not always apparent, but sacrifice and offerings are usually required to have any hope of gaining a deity's attention. While direct intervention in temple life has been recorded, the exact nature of the presence of God in daily mundane life is a subject of controversy. A traditional saying of the Wood Elves is that one man's miracle is another man's accident. While some gods are believed to take an active part of daily life, others are well known for their lack of interest in temporal affairs. It has been theorized that gods do in fact gain strength from such things as worship through praise, sacrifice, and deed. It may even be theorized that a number of worshippers given deity has may reflect on his overall position amongst the other gods. This is my own conjecture, garnered from the apparent ability of the larger temples to attain blessings and assistance from their gods with greater ease than smaller religious institutions. There are reports of the existence of spirits in our world that have the same capacity to use the actions and deeds of mortals to strengthen themselves as do gods. The understanding of the exact nature of such creatures would allow us to understand with more clarity the connection between a deity and the deity's worshippers. The implication of the existence of such spirits leads us to the speculation that these spirits may even be capable of raising themselves to the level of god or goddess. Motusu of the Imperial Seminary has suggested that these spirits may be the remains of gods and goddesses, who, through time, lost all or most of their followings, reverting to their earliest, most basic form. Practitioners of the old ways say that there are no gods, just greater and lesser spirits. Perhaps it is possible for all three theories to be true. Monomyth, Shazzar's Song. The Cyrodiilic Shazzar's Song. This was a new thing that Shazzar described to the gods, becoming mothers and fathers, being responsible and making great sacrifices with no guarantee of success. But Shazzar spoke beautifully to them and moved them beyond mystery and tears. Thus the Aedra gave free birth to the world, the beasts and the beings, making these things from parts of themselves. This free birth was very painful, and afterwards the Aedra were no longer young and strong and powerful as they had been from the beginning of days. Some Aedra were disappointed and bitter in their loss and angry with Shazzar, and with all creation, for they felt Shazzar had lied and tricked them. These Aedra, these gods of Aldmer, led by Oriel, were disgusted by their enfeebled selves, and by what they had created. Everything is spoiled for now and for all time, and the most we can do is teach the elven races to suffer nobly and with dignity, chastise ourselves for folly, and avenge ourselves upon Shazzar and his allies. Thus are the gods of the elves dark and brooding, and thus the elves are ever dissatisfied with mortality, always proud and stoic despite the harshness of the cool and indifferent world. Other Aedra looked upon creation and were well pleased. These Aedra, the gods of men and beast folk, led by Akatosh, praised and cherished their wards, the mortal races. We have suffered and are diminished for all time, but the mortal world we have made is glorious, filling our hearts and spirits with hope. Let us teach the mortal races to live well, to cherish beauty and honor, and to love one another as we love them. Thus are the gods of men tender and patient, and thus are the men and beast folk great in heart, for joy, are suffering, and ambitious for greater wisdom and a better world. Now, when the Daedra lords heard Shazzar, they mocked him and the other Aedra. Cut off parts of ourselves and lose them forever? That is stupid. You will be sorry. We are far smarter than you, for we will create a new world out of ourselves, but we will not cut it off, or let us mock us. But we will make this world within ourselves, forever ours, and under our complete control. So the Daedra lords created the Daedric realms, and all ranks of lesser Daedra, great and small. And for the most part, the Daedra lords were well pleased with this arrangement, for they always had worshippers and servants and playthings close to hand. At the same time, they sometimes looked with envy upon the mortal realms, for though mortals were foul and feeble and contemptible, their passions and ambitions were also far more surprising and entertaining than the antics of the lesser Daedra. Thus do the Daedra lord courts and seduce certain amusing specimens of the mortal races, especially the passionate and the powerful. It gives the Daedra lords special pleasure to steal away from Shazzar and the Aedra, the greatest and most ambitious of mortals. Not only are you fools to mutilate yourselves, gloat the Daedra lords, but you cannot even keep the best pieces, which prefer the glory and power of the Daedra lords to the feeble vulgarity of the mush-minded Aedra. Monomyth, Dragon God and Missing God. In Mundus, conflict and disparity are what bring change, and change is the most sacred of the elven forces. Change is the force without focus or origin. Monothea, Taheri, Order of the Siege. Simply put, the schism in the human Aldmeri worldview is the mortal's relationship to the divine. Humans take the humble path that were created by the immortal forces, while the Aldmer claim descent from them. It doesn't seem like much, but it is a distinction that colors the rest of the divergent monomyth. All Tamrielic religions begin the same. Man or mer, things begin with the dualism of the Anu and his other. Those twin forces go by many names: Anu Padme, Anuriel Sithis, Ak-El, Satak Archaic, is not is. Anuel is the everlasting ineffable light, Sithis the corrupting inexpressible action. In the middle is the grey maybe or nern in the Enhuflex. In most cultures, Anuel is honoured for his part in the interplay that creates the world, but Sithis is held in highest esteem because he is the one who causes the reaction. Sithis is thus the original creator, an entity who intrinsically causes change without design. Even the Hist acknowledge this being. Anuel is also perceived as of order, opposed to the Sithis chaos. Perhaps it is easier for mortals to envision change than perfect stasis, for often Anuel is relegated to the mythic background of the Sithis fantasies. In Yokudan folktales, which are among the most vivid of the world, Sadak is only referred to a handful of times as the Hum. He is the force so prevalent as to not really be there at all. In any case, from these two beings spring the Et-Ada, or the original spirits. To humans, these Et-Ada are the gods and demons. To the Aldma, the Aedra, Daedra, or the ancestors. All of the Tamrielic pantheons fill their rosters from these Et-Ada, although divine membership often differs from culture to culture. Like Anu and Padme, though, every one of these pantheons contains the archetypes of the dragon god and the missing god. The dragon god is always related to time, and he is universally revered as the first god. He is often called Akatosh, whose perch from eternity allowed the day. He is the central god of the Cyrodiilic Empire. The missing god is always related to the mortal plane and is a key figure in the human Aldmeri schism. The missing refers to either his palpable absence from the pantheon, another mental distress that is interpreted in a variety of ways, or the removal of his divine spark by other immortals. He is often called Lorcan, and his epitaphs are many and equally damnable and devout. Note that Tamriel and the mortal plane do not exist yet. The grey maybe is still the playground of the original spirits. Some are more bound to Anu's light than others to the ignoble void. Their constant flux and interplay increase in number, and their personalities take long to congeal. When Akatosh forms, time begins, and it becomes easier for some spirits to realize themselves as beings with a past and a future. The strongest of the recognizable spirits crystallize: Mephala, Arche, Ifri, Magnus, Ruptka, etc., etc. Others remain as concepts, ideas, or emotions. One of the strongest of these, barely formed urge that the others called Lorcan, details a plan to create Mundus, the mortal plane. Humans, with the exception of Redguards, see this act as divine mercy and enlightenment whereby lesser creatures can reach immortality. Aldma, with the exception of the Dark Elves, see this as an act of cruel deception, a trick that surrendered their connection to the spirit plane. I hope you've been enjoying these lore readings, and if you have, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.